Princess Liara stood in the training arena, her body covered in bruises. She had lost again. The guard who defeated her barely looked tired. He bowed and left the arena without a word. Everyone knew what this meant. In 30 days, she would face the trial of ascension. If she failed, she would lose everything. The Catherine Empire valued strength above all else. Every member of the royal family had to prove they could fight. Her 2 older brothers had passed their trials easily. They were strong, fast, and skilled. Liara had trained her whole life, but she kept losing. The problem was simple. She was not strong enough. Liara walked through the palace halls. Servants moved out of her way, their eyes full of pity. She hated that look. She was 7 feet tall, like all Catherines. Her people were warriors, stronger and faster than most species in the galaxy. But among her own kind, she was weak. General Krell waited in the council chamber. He was the commander of the royal guard, a massive warrior with scars covering his arms. He looked at Liara with disappointment. "Princess, your performance today was poor," he said. "You have 30 days until the trial. I do not think you will pass." Liara felt anger rise in her chest. "I will train harder." "Training harder will not help," Krell said. "You do not have the strength. Perhaps you should accept your fate." That night, Liara could not sleep. She thought about exile, about losing her title and her home. She thought about her family's shame. There had to be another way. She remembered something she had heard months ago. A merchant from the outer colonies had told stories about humans. They were a strange species, small and weak compared to most aliens. But somehow they had conquered their planet. They had built ships and weapons. They had defeated enemies much stronger than themselves. The merchant had laughed when he told the stories. He said humans were clever but not honorable. They did not fight fair. They used tricks and tools. To the Catherines, this was shameful. But to Liara, it was interesting. She spent the next 3 days searching through data files. She found information about human colonies, human military history, and human combat methods. What she learned surprised her. Humans were not just lucky. They had developed ways to fight that did not rely on pure strength. They studied their enemies. They used strategy. They won battles they should have lost. One name kept appearing in her research: Jake Morrison. He was a human who had served in Earth's special forces. Now he ran a training facility on Kepler 442b, a frontier world with a human colony. The files said he was one of the best combat instructors alive. Liara made her decision. She would go to this human and learn his methods. She did not tell anyone. General Krell would never approve. Her family would call it shameful. So she left in secret, taking a small ship and flying to Kepler 442b alone. The human colony called New Houston was not impressive. The buildings were simple and practical. Humans walked the streets, going about their business. They were so small. Most of them barely reached her chest. Liara felt strange being the tallest person around. She found Jake Morrison's training facility on the edge of town. It was a large building with practice mats visible through the windows. Liara walked inside. Several humans were training, moving in ways she did not recognize. They flowed like water, using their opponent's strength against them. A man in his late 40s approached her. He was shorter than most Catherines, with gray hair and hard eyes. He looked at her without fear or awe. "Can I help you?" he asked. "Are you Jake Morrison?" "I am. And you are clearly not from around here." "I am Princess Liara of the Catherine Empire," she said. "I need you to train me." Jake crossed his arms. "I train humans. Go find a trainer from your own species. I have trained with my people my whole life. It does not work. I need something different." "Why would a princess need combat training? Don't you have guards for that?" Liara felt embarrassment, but she pushed through it. "In 30 days, I must pass the trial of ascension. If I fail, I lose my title and my home. I have lost every practice match. My own guards think I am weak. I heard that humans defeat stronger opponents through skill. I want to learn how." Jake studied her for a long moment. "How much time do I have?" 30 days, he shook his head. "Not enough. Combat training takes months, even years. Then I need more time. I will give you 100 days. I will pay whatever you ask." 100 days is still not enough to turn someone into a master fighter. "I do not need to be a master. I just need to be good enough to pass the trial." Jake walked to the practice area. "Show me what you can do. Spar with me." Liara hesitated. This human was much smaller than her. She did not want to hurt him. But Jake was already waiting, his stance relaxed. She moved forward using the traditional Catherine fighting stance. She threw a punch, holding back her full strength. Jake moved like smoke, slipping past her fist and striking her ribs. The hit was precise and painful. Before she could react, he swept her legs and she crashed to the mat. Liara stood up, shocked. She attacked again, faster this time. Jake blocked, redirected, and countered. Within seconds, she was on the ground again. They sparred for 5 minutes. Jake defeated her easily every single time. Finally, Jake stepped back. I see your problem. What is it? You have strength, but you do not know how to use it. Your stance is terrible. You telegraph every move. You fight like someone who has never faced a real threat. Everything about your style is designed to look good, not to win. Liara felt her face burn with shame. Will you train me? Why should I? You are royalty. You probably think you are better than everyone else. Training you would be a waste of my time. I do not think I am better than anyone, Liara said quietly. I think I am weak. I think I will fail. But I am willing to try anything to change that, even if it means learning from someone my people would call dishonorable. Jake raised an eyebrow. Dishonorable? Catherines value direct combat. We do not use tricks or strategy. We prove our worth through strength alone. But I do not have enough strength. So I need to learn your way. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. All right, 100 days. But I have conditions. You follow my methods exactly. No arguments. No complaining. You abandon everything you think you know about fighting and start fresh. If you cannot do that, leave now. Liara did not hesitate. I accept. Good. Training starts tomorrow at dawn. Bring clothes you can move in and nothing else. Leave your pride at the door. Liara bowed, a Catherine sign of respect. Jake did not return the gesture. He simply walked away, calling instructions to his other students. As Liara left the facility, she felt something she had not felt in months. Hope. This human had defeated her easily. If she could learn even a fraction of his skill, maybe she had a chance. Maybe she could return home and prove everyone wrong. She found a small room to rent near the training facility. That night she lay awake thinking about what was coming. 100 days to learn a completely different way to fight. 100 days to become something her people had never seen before. It seemed impossible, but impossible was better than hopeless. And for the first time since her training failures began, Princess Liara felt like she might actually have a future. Liara arrived at the training facility before dawn. She wore simple training clothes and felt nervous. Jake was already there, drinking coffee and looking through notes. You are early, he said. Good. We have a lot of work to do. He led her to the practice area. Several other students were warming up. They looked at Liara with curiosity, but Jake told them to focus on their own training. First lesson, Jake said. Forget everything you learned on your planet. Every stance, every technique, every idea about what makes a good fighter. All of it is wrong for you. Liara felt defensive. The Catherine fighting style has existed for centuries, and it works great for people stronger than you. But you are not stronger than your opponents. So you need something else. Are you ready to learn or do you want to argue? Liara closed her mouth and nodded. Jake spent the first hour just watching her move. He made her walk, run, jump, and stretch. Then he shook his head. Your people move like you are showing off. Every motion is big and dramatic. That wastes energy. Humans learn to be efficient. We move only as much as we need to. Watch. He demonstrated a punch. The motion was quick and tight, traveling the shortest distance possible. When Liara tried it, her punch was wide and slow. Again, Jake said. Smaller, faster. They spent 3 hours just on basic movements. Liara felt frustrated. This was too simple. She wanted to learn advanced techniques. But Jake insisted. You cannot build a house on a broken foundation, he said. We fix the basics first. The next days were humiliating. Jake made her practice falling correctly. He said most fighters got hurt because they did not know how to fall. Liara felt like a child learning to walk. The human students watched her stumble and crash to the mats over and over. On the 5th day, a young woman joined the training. Her name was Kate Sullivan. She was small, even for a human, with sharp eyes and quick movements. Kate is my assistant, Jake said. She handles the tactical side of training. Tactical? Liara asked. Combat is not just about physical skill. Kate explained. It is about understanding your opponent, predicting their moves and controlling the fight mentally. I teach people how to think in combat. Liara did not understand how thinking would help her win fights. Kate smiled like she heard this before. Spar with me, Kate said. They faced each other on the mat. Kate was so much smaller than Liara. This would be easy. The match started and Liara attacked. But Kate was never where Liara expected. She moved before Liara finished her motions. She seemed to know what Liara would do before Liara did it. After 2 minutes, Liara was exhausted and had not landed a single hit. Kate had struck her dozens of times. How did you do that? Liara gasped. I watched you. You signal every attack with your eyes and shoulders. You always step with your right foot first. When you get frustrated, you drop your guard. Once I saw your patterns, beating you was simple. Over the next week, Kate taught Liara to observe opponents. She learned to spot weaknesses in stance and movement. She learned that every fighter had habits. If you understood the habits, you could predict what they would do. Fighting is like a conversation, Kate said. Your body talks to your opponent. You need to learn to lie with your body. Show them one thing, do another. Jake introduced Liara to his other instructors. Danny Pierce was a young Marine with cocky attitude. He specialized in aggressive tactics. Linda Hayes was older and calmer. She taught defensive techniques and control. Today you train with all of us, Jake announced. 3 against 1. Liara faced the 3 humans. They were so small compared to her. But when the match started, they moved like a single creature. Danny attacked from the front, drawing her attention. When she focused on him, Linda struck from the side. When she turned to Linda, Kate hit her from behind. They did not fight as individuals. They worked together. One person created openings for the others. They communicated with small gestures and sounds. Liara could not keep track of all 3 at once. After 10 minutes, she collapsed, defeated and confused. On your planet, you fight alone, Jake said. Humans learned that working together multiplies strength. 3 humans fighting as a team can defeat opponents much stronger than themselves. But the trial of ascension is individual combat. Liara protested. True, but learning teamwork teaches you to think differently. It shows you that there are always multiple ways to approach a problem. The days continued. Jake pushed Liara harder than anyone had before. He made her run obstacle courses until her legs shook. He made her practice techniques until her muscles burned. When she wanted to rest, he made her train longer. Your opponents will not wait for you to feel ready, he said. You need to learn to fight when you are tired, hurt, and scared. On day 15, Jake changed the training completely. He stopped teaching her Catherine techniques entirely. Instead, he showed her something called Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. This is a human fighting style, Jake explained. It was designed for smaller people to fight larger opponents. It uses leverage instead of strength. He demonstrated a technique where he used Liara's own weight against her. When she pushed, he pulled. When she pulled, he pushed. Before she knew what happened, she was on the ground with Jake controlling her arm. I do not understand, Liara said. You barely used any strength. Exactly. Strength is just one tool. Position and leverage are more important. If I have good position, your strength does not matter. Learning jiu-jitsu was difficult. Every instinct told Liara to use power to escape bad positions. But Jake taught her to stay calm and use technique instead. It felt wrong, but it worked. Danny taught her boxing. This was different from Catherine's striking. Boxers used footwork to create angles. They moved their head to avoid hits. They punched with their whole body, not just their arms. Power comes from the legs and hips, Danny explained. Your arms just guide it, watch. He hit a training bag. The bag swung violently from a punch that looked effortless. When Liara tried using all her Catherine strength, the bag barely moved. You are pushing the bag, Danny said. Stop pushing. Snap your punches. Be fast, not hard. It took days to understand, but slowly Liara learned to punch properly. Her hits became sharper and faster. She used less energy but created more impact. Linda taught her about defense and patience. Catherine fighters attacked constantly, believing that aggression showed strength. Linda showed Liara how to defend efficiently and wait for the right moment to counter. Every attack creates an opening, Linda said. If you are patient, your opponent will give you opportunities. But if you are always attacking, you create openings for them. They practiced for hours. Linda attacked and Liara could only defend. At first, Liara hated this. She wanted to fight back. But Linda was right. After defending for a while, Liara started to see patterns. She began to predict when Linda would strike and where. On day 20, Jake brought in new training partners. They were larger than the regular human students, and some were not human at all. There was a Graxian mercenary, thick and strong. There was a Terran colonist who stood 6.5 feet tall. You need experience against different types of opponents, Jake said. Every species fights differently. You need to adapt. Fighting the Graxian was frustrating. He was even stronger than Kethrin's. But Liara used her new techniques. She did not try to match his strength. She used footwork to stay away from his power. She used leverage when they grappled. She aimed for weak points instead of trying to overpower him. She lost, but it was close. Closer than it would have been before. By day 30, Liara was exhausted in ways she had never been. Jake trained her 6 hours a day, sometimes more. Every muscle ached. Her mind felt tired from learning so many new concepts. But something had changed. She no longer moved like a Kethrin warrior. Her stance was lower and more mobile. Her strikes were precise instead of powerful. She watched opponents carefully, looking for patterns and weaknesses. One evening, Jake called her to his office. He looked serious. "You have learned a lot in 30 days, he said, but you still fight like you are trying to remember techniques. That is normal at this stage. The next phase will be harder. I'm going to push you until this becomes natural. Until you do not have to think. Do you understand?" "I understand." "Good. Because the easy part is over. Starting tomorrow, the real training begins." Liara left the facility and walked through the streets of New Houston. The small humans no longer seemed weak to her. She had learned that they compensated for physical limitations with intelligence and technique. They studied and adapted. They never stopped improving. For the first time in her life, Liara understood something important. Strength was not just about muscles and speed. It was about using every advantage available. It was about thinking, adapting, and never giving up. She thought about her upcoming trial. 70 days remained. Would it be enough? She did not know. But she was no longer the same princess who arrived here 30 days ago. She was becoming something different, something her people had never seen. And deep down, Liara was starting to believe she might actually win. Day 31 started with something unexpected. Jake handed Liara a book. It was old and worn with strange symbols on the cover. "This is The Art of War by Sun Tzu," Jake said. "Written by a human general thousands of years ago. Read it tonight." Liara looked at the book with confusion. "I thought we were training combat skills." "We are. But combat starts in the mind. Sun Tzu understood that battles are won before the first punch is thrown. You need to understand strategy, not just techniques." That night, Liara read the book. The ideas were strange to her. Sun Tzu wrote about deception, about knowing yourself and your enemy, about winning without fighting when possible. Kethrin warriors would call these ideas cowardly, but as Liara read, she understood the wisdom in them. The next day, Kate sat with her in the morning before training started. "Did you read the book?" Kate asked. "I did. But I'm not sure how it helps me in the trial." "Everything in that book applies to your trial," Kate said. "Think about it. You will face multiple opponents in succession. That means you need to manage your energy. You need to identify which opponents are dangerous and which are not. You need to make them work hard while you conserve strength. That is strategy." Kate pulled up videos of past Kethrin trials. Together, they watched how warriors fought. Kate pointed out patterns Liara had never noticed before. "See that? Your people always start aggressive. They believe showing strength early proves dominance. But look what happens. They waste energy in the first 2 minutes. By the third opponent, they are tired. So what should I do differently? Be patient. Let your opponents attack first. Defend efficiently. Make them work harder than you. By the time you face the final opponent, you will be fresher than they expect." Jake spent the next weeks teaching Liara about weapons. Kethrins used energy blades, heavy weapons that required strength to wield effectively. Jake showed her something different. He handed her a simple wooden staff. "This is one of humanity's oldest weapons," he said. "Simple, effective, and it does not rely on strength. It relies on reach and technique," Jake demonstrated. The staff moved in fluid circles, blocking and striking faster than any blade. He showed her how to use the staff's length to keep opponents away. He showed her how to strike joints and weak points. "A staff is just a stick," Jake said. "But in trained hands it is more dangerous than any blade. Because it is not about the weapon. It is about the person using it." Liara practiced with the staff for hours each day. At first she tried to use it like a club swinging with force. Jake corrected her constantly. Stop using strength. Use speed and accuracy. A light tap on the right spot is better than a hard hit on armor. Danny introduced her to knife fighting. This was even stranger. Kethran warriors saw knives as backup weapons, tools of desperation. Danny showed her that knives were tools of precision. In close combat, a knife is faster than anything else, Danny explained. Your opponents will expect punches and grabs. They will not expect this. He moved through a practice form, the knife flowing like water. Every motion had purpose. The knife was never wasted on big slashes. It targeted specific points, tendons, joints, the inside of the wrist. I will not have a knife in the trial, Liara said. True, but learning knife fighting teaches you about targeting. It teaches you to look for vulnerable spots. That mindset carries over to unarmed combat. Linda taught her about improvised weapons. She showed Liara how anything could become a weapon with proper technique. A piece of cloth could blind or choke. A small rock could break bones if thrown correctly. Even sand could distract an opponent. Humans learned to survive in environments without weapons, Linda said. So we became creative. We use what is available. Your trial will take place in an arena. There will be things you can use if you are smart enough to see them. On day 45, Kate started the historical education. She showed Liara videos and records of human military history. Battles where humans were outnumbered and outmatched but still won. Look at this one, Kate said, showing footage of an old Earth battle. 300 soldiers held off an army of thousands. They used terrain to create a bottleneck. They made the enemy's numbers meaningless. But I will fight in an open arena. The principle is the same. Control where the fight happens. Do not let your opponent choose the terms. Force them to fight your way. Kate showed her more battles. Small units defeating large armies through ambush and surprise. Weaker forces winning through superior information and planning. Every example proved the same point. Physical strength mattered less than tactical thinking. One particular battle fascinated Liara. A small group of human soldiers had been trapped and outnumbered. Instead of fighting directly, they used psychology. They made noise to sound like a larger force. They attacked and retreated, making their enemies nervous and exhausted. Eventually, the larger force retreated without a real battle. That is brilliant, Liara said. Humans call it asymmetric warfare, Kate explained. When you cannot win through strength, you change the game. You make your weaknesses into strengths. Jake introduced new concepts as the days progressed. He taught her about feints and misdirection. A feint was a fake attack designed to make the opponent react, creating a real opening. Your people do not use feints, Jake said. You consider them dishonest. But in real combat, deception keeps you alive. Show your opponent one thing, do another. Make them defend high, then strike low. They practiced this for days. Liara learned to throw combinations where the first two strikes were setups for the third. She learned to pretend to be tired when she was not. She learned to fake injuries to draw opponents closer. Danny taught her about psychological warfare in combat. How to use your face and voice to intimidate. How to stay calm when your opponent expected fear. How to make small gestures that planted doubt in the opponent's mind. Fighting is 50% physical and 50% mental, Danny said. If you can break their confidence, you already have won. By day 60, Jake started combining everything. He created complex scenarios where Liara had to use techniques, strategy, and psychology together. He would give her challenges like fighting an opponent while protecting a specific area, or defeating multiple attackers while completing an objective. These scenarios were harder than pure fighting. They forced Liara to think while under pressure. She had to prioritize, make quick decisions, and adapt when things went wrong. One scenario involved 3 opponents attacking while she had to move an object from one side of the arena to another. The first time Liara tried to fight all 3 while carrying the object, she failed completely. What did you do wrong? Jake asked. I tried to do everything at once. Right, you need to divide the problem. Use the environment to slow them down. Create space. Move the object in stages. Think like a human, not like a Kethran warrior. She tried again. This time she used a training mat to trip one opponent. She feinted at another, making him commit to a position that blocked the third. She moved the object a short distance, then repositioned. It took longer, but she succeeded. Jake smiled. Better. You are learning to think instead of just react. Kate worked with Liara on reading opponents during combat. She taught her to watch for small signs that revealed intention. A shift in weight before a kick. A breath before a punch. Eyes glancing at a target. Most fighters do not realize they signal their moves, Kate said. But if you know what to look for, they might as well be telling you their plans. They practiced with Kate attacking while announcing what she was about to do. At first, Liara could barely react even when told. But gradually she learned to recognize the signs before Kate spoke. Eventually, Kate stopped announcing, and Liara could predict most attacks anyway. Linda focused on efficiency and energy management. She taught Liara to move minimally, to let opponents waste energy while she conserved it. Your trial will last a long time, Linda said. Multiple fights, short rest periods. The warrior who manages energy best will win. Every unnecessary movement costs you. Every wasted strike makes you weaker. They practiced fight simulations where Liara had to defeat 5 opponents with only 2-minute breaks between fights. The first attempts were disasters. By the third fight, Liara was too tired to defend properly, but Linda taught her tricks. Breathe correctly to recover faster. Move to create rest moments during fights. Make opponents chase you, forcing them to work harder. Target areas that disable opponents quickly, ending fights sooner. On day 70, Jake brought in a surprise. It was a Kethran warrior who had left Valoria years ago to become a mercenary. His name was Corvin, and he agreed to help with training. I heard about you, Princess, Corvin said. Everyone on Valoria thinks you will fail. They say you disgraced yourself by seeking human training. Perhaps I have, Liara replied. Show me what these humans taught you. They sparred. Corvin used traditional Kethran fighting. He was strong, fast, and experienced. But Liara had changed. She used footwork to control distance. She feinted high and struck low. She targeted his knees and joints instead of trying to overpower him. The match lasted 10 minutes. It ended with Corvin on the ground, tapping out from a submission hold he had never seen before. He stood up slowly, shaking his head. I do not believe what I just saw. You fought nothing like a Kethran. Is that bad? Corvin smiled. That is why you might actually win. Every warrior on Valoria fights the same way. They will have no idea how to handle you. That evening, Jake gathered everyone in the training facility. Liara, Kate, Danny, Linda, and a few other students. Jake looked serious. We have 30 days left, he said. Liara has learned techniques and strategy. Now we test if she can apply them under real pressure. The next phase will be the hardest. If anyone cannot handle it, now is the time to say so. Liara stood straight. I can handle it. We will see. Training starts at dawn. Be ready. That night, Liara thought about how much she had changed. She no longer believed that strength alone determined victory. She understood that humans had survived and thrived because they thought differently. They adapted. They learned. They never assumed they had all the answers. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her body looked the same, but her eyes were different. They were calmer, more focused. She moved differently, thought differently, fought differently. 30 days remained until she returned to Valoria. 30 days to turn knowledge into instinct. 30 days to become ready for the trial that would decide her future. The journey was not over, but Liara was no longer afraid. She was ready for whatever came next. Day 71 began differently. When Liara arrived at the facility, the training area had changed. Jake had set up obstacles, barriers, and uneven ground. The comfortable practice mats were gone. Real fights do not happen on flat, clean surfaces, Jake said. You need to learn to fight anywhere in any condition. He brought in new training partners. These were not students. They were mercenaries and professional fighters from across the sector. Some were human, others were alien species. All of them looked dangerous. For the next 30 days you will fight these people, Jake explained. They will not go easy on you. They will try to hurt you. This is as close to real combat as we can safely get. The first opponent was a Terran mercenary named Cole. He was tall, muscular, and covered in scars. When the match started, he attacked with brutal efficiency. His strikes were meant to damage, not just score points. Liara blocked a punch and felt the impact shake her arm. This was different from practice. Cole was not training. He was fighting. She circled, using the obstacles Jake had placed. When Cole charged, she moved behind a barrier, making him slow down. She waited for him to commit to an attack, then countered with a combination Jake had taught her. Strike the knee, then the ribs, then sweep the leg. Cole went down hard. But he got up quickly, angry now. They fought for 15 minutes. Liara used every technique she knew. Feints, grappling, strikes to vulnerable points. When the timer ended, both of them were exhausted and breathing hard. Jake called it a draw. You survived, Jake said. That is good. But surviving is not enough. You need to win convincingly, again tomorrow. Each day brought new opponents with different styles. A Graxian who relied on overwhelming strength. A human woman who was incredibly fast. An alien with 4 arms who attacked from multiple angles at once. Liara lost some matches, won others. But every fight taught her something. The Graxian taught her about managing larger opponents. The fast human showed her the importance of timing. The 4-armed alien forced her to improve her awareness. Jake made the conditions harder as days passed. He had her fight when tired. He made her start matches already injured from previous training. He put her in poor positions and forced her to recover. Nothing was comfortable. Nothing was fair. Your trial will not be fair, Jake said. Your opponents will be fresh. The conditions might favor them. You need to win anyway. On day 75, Jake introduced scenario training. Liara had to fight while protecting a zone. She had to defeat opponents while carrying weight. She had to fight with one arm restrained. These scenarios were frustrating. They seemed pointless. But Jake explained. The trial will have rules and objectives beyond simple combat. You need to be able to fight while thinking about multiple things. This trains your mind to stay tactical even under pressure. Kate worked with Liara on psychological preparation. They talked about managing fear, maintaining focus, and staying calm when hurt. Pain is information, Kate said. It tells you something is damaged. But you can choose how to respond to it. Human soldiers learn to acknowledge pain without letting it control them. They practiced this strange idea. Kate would inflict controlled pain, pressure points and joint locks, while Liara had to continue solving problems. Math questions, memory tests, tactical decisions. At first, the pain overwhelmed everything. But gradually, Liara learned to function through it. Danny focused on fighting when exhausted. He would make Liara run until she could barely stand, then force her to spar. Everything felt heavy. Her reactions were slow, but Danny pushed her to keep going. Exhaustion is a state of mind as much as a physical condition, Danny said. Your body can do more than your brain thinks it can. You need to learn to push past what feels like your limit. Linda taught her about recovery between matches, breathing techniques to slow her heart rate, stretches to reduce muscle tension quickly, mental exercises to clear her mind. You will have short breaks between opponents in your trial, Linda said. How you use those breaks will determine if you finish strong or collapse. By day 80, Jake introduced the hardest training yet. Liara would fight 5 opponents in succession, with only 3-minute breaks between matches. The opponents were all experienced fighters. They were briefed on her techniques and told to exploit her weaknesses. The first attempt was brutal. Liara won the first 2 matches but lost the third. She was too tired, too damaged. Jake made her try again the next day, and the next, and the next. Each attempt she learned something new. She learned to pace herself better in early fights. She learned which techniques used less energy. She learned to damage opponents in ways that made them easier for the next fighter. On the 5th attempt, she finally won all 5 matches. But Jake was not satisfied. You won, but barely. You need to win with energy left over. The trial might have more than 5 opponents. Again tomorrow. Jake brought in Corvin, the Kethran mercenary, multiple times. Corvin knew Kethran fighting inside and out. He could predict what Liara would do based on her instincts. Fighting him forced Liara to completely abandon her old habits. You still revert to Kethran techniques when pressured, Corvin said after one match. Your human training is good, but it is not yet natural. You think about it. In a real fight, you cannot think. You must just do. This was Liara's biggest challenge. Under pressure, her body wanted to do what it had trained for years. The Kethran stance, the Kethran strikes. She had to consciously override these instincts. Jake made her repeat movements thousands of times. Jab, cross, hook, check, kick, sweep, submit, feint high, strike low, over and over until her muscles remembered without her brain directing them. Muscle memory takes time, Jake said. We do not have enough time to make this completely natural. But we can get close. Keep drilling. On day 90, Jake staged the ultimate test. Liara would fight 7 opponents in a row, in a modified arena with obstacles and poor lighting. She would have only 2-minute breaks. And the opponents knew she was tired from morning training. The first opponent was easy. Liara was fresh and focused. The second was harder. Her muscles were warming up, but fatigue was setting in. The third opponent was a Kethrin-style fighter, which messed with her head. She won but took damage. By the fourth opponent, Liara was hurting. Her ribs ached from a kick in the previous match. Her left eye was swelling. She wanted to rest, but there was no time. The opponent attacked immediately. This is where Kate's training helped. Liara stayed calm. She let the opponent come to her, defended efficiently, and waited for mistakes. When the opening came, she took it. Victory. The fifth and sixth opponents blurred together. Liara was on autopilot, her body doing what it had drilled 10,000 times. She barely remembered the matches afterward. But she won both. The seventh opponent was Corvin. He was fresh. She was destroyed. He attacked with full Kethrin fury. For the first minute, Liara just survived, defending desperately. But then something clicked. Her breathing steadied. Her vision cleared. She remembered Linda's words about using exhaustion as a weapon. Corvin expected her to be weak. She pretended to be weaker than she was. She stumbled, making it look accidental. Corvin pressed his advantage, attacking hard. But Liara had created space. She had made him commit. When he overextended, she countered with a technique he had never seen. He went down. The training facility erupted in cheers. Every student and instructor had been watching. Liara had done it. 7 opponents, one after another, and she was still standing. Jake walked over. For the first time since training began, he smiled. That was good. Really good. Liara collapsed to her knees, every part of her body screaming in pain. But she smiled too. She had done something impossible. Something no Kethrin had trained for. The final days were lighter. Jake focused on recovery and mental preparation. They talked about the trial, about what to expect, about strategy. Remember, Jake said, your opponents will expect a traditional Kethrin warrior. They will expect you to fight their way. The moment you show them something different, you have an advantage. Use it. Kate gave her final advice on reading opponents. Every fighter has tells, even experienced ones. Watch their eyes in the first 30 seconds. That will tell you everything. Danny reminded her about aggression control. Be aggressive in your mind, but controlled in your actions. Never let emotion drive your decisions. Linda emphasized recovery and pacing. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Winning the first fight means nothing if you cannot win the last one. On the night of day 99, Jake called Liara to his office. He handed her a worn notebook, the pages filled with handwritten notes. This is my personal journal, Jake said. Combat observations, techniques, philosophy. I want you to have it. Liara held the notebook carefully. I cannot take this. You can and you will. Humans do not rely on instinct alone. We write things down. We analyze. We improve constantly. Start your own journal. Write what you learn. That way you never stop growing. Thank you, Jake, for everything. Do not thank me yet. Thank me when you pass that trial. Show your people what you learned here. On day 100, there was no training. Just a final meeting with everyone who had helped her. Kate, Danny, Linda, Corvin, and the other students. They had become something like a team, though Liara had never expected that. You are ready, Kate said. Trust your training. Make them remember you, Danny added. Stay smart. Stay patient, Linda reminded her. Corvin gripped her shoulder. When you win, the Kethrin Empire will never be the same. Show them that strength comes in many forms. That evening, Liara boarded her ship to return to Valoria. As the planet grew smaller behind her, she thought about the 100 days. She had arrived weak and desperate. She was leaving with skills her people had never seen. But more than skills, she had a new understanding. Humans were not strong because of their bodies. They were strong because they never stopped adapting, learning, and improving. They did not rely on what they were born with. They built themselves into what they needed to be. Liara opened Jake's notebook and wrote her first entry. Day 100. Returning home. I am not the same princess who left. I am not sure if I am even Kethrin anymore, or if I am something new. Something human and Kethrin mixed together. Tomorrow I face the trial. Tomorrow I prove that everything I learned is real. Tomorrow the Kethrin Empire learns that strength is not just physical. It is mental. It is technical. It is human. She closed the notebook and prepared for the trial that would decide everything. Princess Liara's ship landed on Valoria 3 days before the trial of Ascension. News of her return spread quickly through the palace. Most people had assumed she would not come back at all. Those who saw her were surprised. She looked the same physically, but something about her had changed. The way she walked, the way her eyes moved, constantly observing, the quiet confidence in her posture. General Krell met her in the landing bay. He looked at her with barely hidden contempt. "So the princess returns," he said. "Did your human trainer teach you magic tricks to replace real skill?" "He taught me what I needed to learn. We will see. Your trial is in 3 days. I hope you are prepared to accept exile with dignity." Liara said nothing. Words meant nothing now. Only the trial mattered. She spent the next 2 days alone reviewing everything Jake had taught her. She practiced forms, meditated, and studied the trial rules. The trial had 3 parts. First, defeat 5 royal guards in individual matches. Second, survive a gauntlet where 20 warriors would attack in waves while she protected a crystal objective. Third, face Commander Vex, the champion of the Royal Guard, in single combat. On the morning of the trial, the arena was filled with Kethrin nobility and military leadership. Her family sat in the royal box. Her brothers watched with pity. Her father, the Emperor, showed no emotion. General Krell stood in the center of the arena. Princess Liara will now undergo the trial of ascension. She must prove her worth through combat. If she fails any part, she will be stripped of her title and exiled from Valoria. Let the trial begin. The first opponent entered the arena. His name was Torak, a royal guard known for his speed. He was younger than Liara, fast and confident. The crowd expected this to be over quickly. The match began. Torak attacked immediately, using traditional Kethrin aggressive tactics. But Liara did not meet his aggression with her own. She circled, using footwork Jake had drilled into her. She defended efficiently, letting Torak expend energy. Torak threw a powerful punch. Instead of blocking with strength, Liara slipped to the side and struck his ribs. Her punch was short and precise, targeting a nerve cluster Kate had shown her. Torak gasped and stepped back, confused by the pain from such a light hit. Liara pressed forward, not with wild attacks, but with calculated combinations. Jab to the face to raise his guard, low kick to his knee. When he dropped his hands to protect his leg, she struck his throat with a controlled hit. Torak fell, unable to breathe properly. The match was over in 90 seconds. The crowd was silent, shocked by what they had seen. The second opponent was Drana, a female guard who specialized in grappling. She tried to close distance and use her strength advantage, but Liara used Brazilian jiu-jitsu techniques. When Drana grabbed her, Liara used the grip against her, transitioning to positions Drana had never encountered. Within 2 minutes, Liara had Drana in a submission hold, one arm hyperextended. Drana had to tap out or risk permanent injury. 2 victories. The third opponent was larger and more cautious. He had watched the first 2 matches. He defended carefully, trying to make Liara attack first. But Liara was patient. Linda had trained her for this. She waited, forcing him to make the first move. When he finally committed to an attack, she was ready. She used his momentum against him, redirecting and countering. The fight lasted longer, 6 minutes of careful exchanges. But Liara controlled the pace. She targeted his legs, slowing his movement. She landed precise strikes that accumulated damage. Eventually, he could not continue. The fourth opponent tried to use deception, feinting and changing rhythm. But Kate had trained Liara to read body language. She saw through the feints, recognizing the real attacks by watching his eyes and weight distribution. This match ended with Liara using a sweeping technique that put him on the ground, then a submission that left him no choice but to yield. The fifth opponent was older and experienced. He adapted quickly, changing tactics when he saw what Liara was doing. This was the hardest match. Liara took damage, a hard hit to her shoulder and a kick to her thigh. But she stayed calm, managed the pain like Kate had taught, and waited for her opportunity. It came in the 4th minute. The guard overextended on a strike, trying to end the fight with one powerful blow. Liara ducked under it, got behind him, and used a technique that took him to the ground. She secured a position where he could not escape, forcing him to submit. 5 victories. The crowd was no longer silent. They were talking, arguing, confused. This was not how Kethrin warriors fought. Where was the power? Where was the honor? Yet the princess was winning. General Krell looked furious, but he could not stop the trial. Liara had passed the first test. The second test began after a 10-minute rest. Liara used the time exactly as Linda had taught her. She controlled her breathing, stretched her damaged muscles, and cleared her mind. She visualized the gauntlet, planning her strategy. 20 warriors entered the arena. They would attack in waves while Liara protected a crystal platform in the center. She had to survive for 10 minutes with the crystal intact. If the crystal was destroyed or if she was defeated, she failed. The first wave attacked. 4 warriors charged from different directions. Instead of staying at the crystal and defending it directly, Liara moved. She used the crystal as an obstacle, positioning it between her and attackers. When they had to go around it, she engaged them one at a time. She fought efficiently using minimal movements. Every strike had purpose. Disable, not destroy. Make them unable to continue, then move to the next threat. Her situational awareness was perfect. She tracked all 4 warriors, knowing where each one was without looking directly at them. The second wave came before the first was fully down. 6 warriors this time. Liara had trained for this. She used terrain Danny had taught her about. She kicked sand toward one warrior's eyes. She grabbed a fallen staff and used it to extend her reach, keeping multiple opponents back. The crowd watched in disbelief. The princess was not just surviving. She was controlling the fight. She made the warriors work hard, chase her, exhaust themselves. Meanwhile, she conserved energy, struck efficiently, and protected the crystal without staying fixed to it. Wave 3 brought more warriors. The arena was chaos now, but Liara's mind was calm. This was like the scenarios Jake had created. Multiple threats, one objective. Prioritize and adapt. She identified the most dangerous warrior in each wave and disabled him first. She used the environment, the fallen warriors, even the crystal itself as tools. By minute 8, half the warriors were out. The remaining ones were tired and frustrated. They had never faced someone who fought like this. Liara was still moving, still thinking, still winning. The final 2 minutes were the hardest. The last warriors attacked together, desperate to overwhelm her. Liara took hits she could not avoid. A punch to her side cracked a rib. A kick to her back made her stumble. But she did not stop. She channeled the pain into focus, just like she had trained. When the timer ended, Liara stood alone in the center of the arena. 20 warriors were down. The crystal was intact. She had won. The crowd erupted. Some cheered. Others shouted in anger. This was not proper Catherine fighting, but it was effective. Undeniably, impossibly effective. Liara was given 20 minutes to recover before the final test. She used every second. Her body screamed in pain, but her mind stayed sharp. This was what Jake had prepared her for. Fighting through exhaustion, pain, and pressure. Commander Vex entered the arena. He was the strongest warrior in the Catherine military. 7.5 feet tall, covered in muscle and scars from countless battles. He had defeated every challenger for 5 years. No one had ever made him struggle. He looked at Liara with respect, not contempt. He had watched her matches. "You fight well, Princess," Vex said.
"I have never seen these techniques."
"But I am not like the others. I adapt, I learn. This will not be easy for you." "I know," Liara replied. "But I am ready." The final match began. Vex did not charge recklessly. He was too experienced for that. He circled, studying her stance and movement. Liara did the same, reading his body language and patterns. Vex struck first, a testing jab. Fast for his size. Liara slipped it and countered with a low kick. Vex checked it easily. They exchanged carefully, both gathering information. After the first minute, Vex increased pressure. He used his size and reach, forcing Liara to work harder. She used footwork to create angles, never letting him corner her. She struck his legs repeatedly, accumulating damage even though each hit alone did little. Vex adapted. He changed his stance to protect his legs better. He feinted, trying to draw her into mistakes. But Kate had trained Liara to recognize feints. She stayed patient, the fight continued. Vex was strong, but Liara made him work for everything. When he attacked, she was not there. When he tried to corner her, she escaped. She used the arena space perfectly, never letting him set up the fight he wanted. 5 minutes passed, then 8. The crowd had never seen a match last this long. Vex was breathing harder now. Not exhausted, but working. Liara was hurting, her damaged ribs screaming with every breath. But she did not show it. She watched Vex's patterns. He favored his right side. After combinations, he always reset to the same stance. When frustrated, his guard dropped slightly. She saw these things because she had been trained to see them. At minute 10, Liara changed tactics. She became more aggressive, pressing forward. Vex welcomed this, thinking she was getting desperate. He prepared to counter her aggression with overwhelming force. But it was a setup. Liara attacked high, making Vex commit to blocking. Then she dropped low and swept his lead leg hard. Vex stumbled, not quite falling but off balance. In that split second, Liara secured a grappling position Jake had drilled thousands of times. She used leverage, not strength. She controlled Vex's center of gravity. She transitioned through positions faster than he could counter, because he had never trained in this style. Within seconds, she had him in a submission hold, one arm hyperextended and his own weight working against him. Vex could break free with pure strength, but it would destroy his shoulder, or he could submit. He was a warrior, but not a fool. A destroyed shoulder meant the end of his career. He tapped the ground, signaling submission. The arena exploded. Some Kethrans shouted in celebration, others in outrage. General Krell was red with anger. But the Emperor stood, silencing everyone. Princess Liara has passed the trial of ascension, he announced. She has proven her worth through methods we have not seen before. The trial is concluded. General Krell stepped forward. Emperor, I protest. Her methods are dishonorable. She did not fight like a Kethran. This trial should be invalidated. The Emperor looked at his daughter, bruised and bleeding but standing tall. Then he looked at Krell. She won every challenge according to the rules. That the methods are unfamiliar does not make them invalid. Perhaps, General, we have something to learn from these techniques. If my daughter found a way to defeat superior opponents, should not our entire military learn these methods? Krell had no response. The Emperor continued. Princess Liara, you will create a new training program for the Royal Guard. You will teach them what you have learned. Commander Vex will assist you. Vex approached Liara. He bowed, a sign of deep respect. You defeated me fairly, Princess. I would be honored to learn from you. In the days that followed, Liara became both celebrated and controversial. Some Kethrans embraced her new methods. Others rejected them as dishonorable. But results spoke louder than tradition. Warriors who trained with her became more effective. They won matches they should have lost. Jake, Kate, Danny, and Linda visited Valoria as consultants. They helped establish the new training program. Watching them work together with Kethran warriors, Liara felt proud. She had brought two cultures together. One evening, General Krell approached her privately. He had opposed her since the beginning, but now he looked uncertain. I challenged you before and you made me look foolish, he said. I have trained 40 years in the Kethran way. Everything I know says your methods are wrong, but I cannot deny they work. They work because they are different, Liara said. Kethran methods are strong, but there is always room to improve, always more to learn. Would you teach me? Liara was surprised. This proud general asking to learn from someone he had called weak. It was a huge step. I would be honored. Their training session was private. Liara showed Krell the basics: footwork, leverage, efficiency. He struggled, his body resistant after decades of different training. But he tried. That was what mattered. After an hour, Krell sat on the training mat, exhausted and humbled. I understand now, he said. This is not about honor or tradition. It is about survival, about winning when you should lose, about never giving up, never stopping improvement. Now you understand what makes humans dangerous, Liara said. They are not the strongest or the fastest, but they adapt. They learn. They use every advantage available. That is their real strength. Months later, the Kethran Empire had changed. Warriors trained in both traditional and human methods. They learned strategy alongside strength. They studied opponents instead of just fighting them. The military became more effective, more versatile. Liara kept Jake's notebook with her always. She added her own observations, her own lessons. She taught others to do the same. Knowledge was not static. It grew with each generation. One day she received a message from Jake. Heard you passed your trial. Heard you're changing an entire empire. Proud of you. Remember, this is just the beginning. Never stop learning. Never stop improving. That is the human way. And now it is your way too. Liara smiled and wrote back. Thank you, teacher. You gave me more than fighting skills. You gave me a new way to see the world. I am not just Kethran anymore. I am something new. And I will make sure others have the chance to grow like I did. She closed the message and returned to training. A group of young Kethran warriors waited for her in the arena. They were eager, curious, ready to learn, just like she had been 100 days ago. Liara took her position and began the lesson. Today I will teach you something my people did not understand for centuries. Strength is important, but technique, strategy, and adaptability are more important. You will learn to win not because you are strong, but because you are smart. You will learn to be like humans. Small in body, perhaps, but thinking big, always thinking big. The students listened, and Lyra taught. The empire was changing, one warrior at a time, all because a desperate princess had learned a simple truth. There is always a better way. You just have to be willing to learn it.